Hello there, Drew Handish of Whiskey Lore, and it's time for another whiskey tasting, and headed to the island of Japan, and doing a tasting of a Japanese whiskey. A Japanese whiskey that if you've never had a Japanese whiskey before, and you want to dip your toe in the water at $30 to $35 a bottle, might be worth a shot to go buy a bottle of this, because it is at a great price point, especially when you consider that a lot of Japanese whiskey is going to be $70 and up, and if you're looking for single malts, forget it. You're probably going to be, into the three digits when you're looking for those particular whiskeys. And that's just because Japan got caught off guard by how popular their whiskey became, and when it all of a sudden started selling like hotcakes, well, they had to start moving towards doing blends just to hold on to some of their whiskeys. So this is a blend that contains two different single malts and a grain whiskey. The grain whiskey comes from Cheetah. Don't know for sure, but I'm imagining that they probably just use American oak barrels to age that. And then the two single malts, Yamazaki is one of them, although that's not the primary single malt in it. The whiskeys that are aged and put in here, the two single malts, the one that has a Spanish oak influence on top of the American oak is the Yamazaki, and that's actually just a little bit of a component in this one, and the other distillery gives us just American oak. So there's going to be a lot of bourbon influence on this one, or there should be, at least anyway. And so 43% ABV, which I think is great for a value whiskey, and I applaud. Honestly, I don't want to see whiskeys under 43%, because once it gets to 40, and that's not to say that there aren't some 40% ABV whiskeys that are worth trying, because there are. It's just there's a little bit more impact on the palate when you raise at least to 43, and if it can get up to 46, that's even better, because they're not chill filtering and all that stuff. Now, of course, this one, they're definitely not putting color in that. If they are, the stuff must look like water before they put the color in it, because that's pretty light. So, but I mean, we're probably still talking about in used cooperage. Maybe that could be a 6, 7, 8 year whiskey. It's hard to say. I mean, depends on how aggressively the whiskeys are being aged, what their conditions are. So this is an interesting whiskey in terms of its nose, because with Japanese whiskeys, I tend to look for kind of a floral note and an odd wood note that I don't tend to get in any other types of whiskey. And to me, this one gives me that little bit of char note in there, a lot of peppery grain coming in on the nose, a little bit of almond. Yeah, the pepper is actually quite prevalent on the nose. And Toki means time, or roughly means time, and Toki Doki means sometimes. I don't know why I looked that up, but I did. Actually, I was doing a lookup on Toki, and I saw Toki Doki, and I said, I gotta know. Okie dokie. Toki. Anyway. Humoring myself. There is an odd note in this, and the odd note that is in this is also an odd note that I find in Old Forester 100, which is kind of a processed meat note that comes in, like bologna. So think about it. I don't know if that's coming from the barrel or what, but it is there. But it's not overly aggressive. And it's not unpleasant. It's an odd note. Cheers. The caramel hits you right up front. But it's not a sweet caramel. It is like, it's like that toffee is there, but there's other stuff working with it to kind of mute it down a bit. Kind of a honey note in there. It ends up in a peppery kind of way on the palate with a little bit of char on top of that. Um, maybe even a coconut note in there, which is really interesting. Some citrus on top of that. It's got a nice mouthfeel to it. It's not a heavy mouthfeel. It's a moderate mouthfeel, but it's a. I say when I taste this, I have a friend of mine that's a big fan of this as a value whiskey, and I keep going. I don't get it. I don't know what you really like about this. It's not offensive in any way, shape, or form, but part of me is like, I'd rather have a Glenmorangie G10 because then I'm going to end up for the same price getting something that has a lot more, it's more citrus forward, and the fruit stands out a little bit more on it than this does. But in a way, if I'm in a mood for something that's maybe a little more nutty, has that peppery note to it, and now that I'm drinking more Irish whiskeys and getting into kind of that grain note with a little lemony twist to it, it is, I mean, because there is a slight bit of a graham crackery note in this as well. I'm starting to appreciate it more. So, and then when you think about the fact that this is, $30 to $35 a bottle versus its big brother, Hibiki Japanese Harmony, which is going to run you at least $95 to $100 a bottle, if not more these days, then $35 price point is pretty good. So, yeah, I think a little more citrus on the nose that time after doing a taste of it. I give this a hard time sometimes. I'm like, I don't see why people pump it up so much, but it actually is a good whiskey. It is a good whiskey, and it is one that if you're just sitting around talking with friends, it's a good sipper. It really is. And so I will give it its props. What do you guys think? You like Suntory Toki? You want me to stop coming up with things like Toki Doki to... hey, if you have comments, leave them below. If you like the video and you enjoy my tastings, then please give me a like, and that helps other people find the video. And then subscribe if you want to watch more of them down the road. And until next time, cheers and Slainte. More lemon on the side of the palate. All coming from that grain. A lot of grain influence on this one. That bitter char, though, on the end. Slightly off, but not overly offensive.